Good evening, YouTube. Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. We're almost towards D-Day here in regards to what's now looking like an almost imminent tornado outbreak. I won't say that it is imminent because a lot of things can still change within 24 hours, and we can always hope that this doesn't end up coming to fruition here. But things are definitely looking pretty urgent at this point. So urgent that I might even do a video in the morning before I leave, because probably by the time I get back tomorrow, there most likely will be ongoing tornado warnings, some of which could be PDS tornado warnings or worse in the worst case scenario. That being said, I'll in tomorrow's video I'll have links to other weather YouTubers that do live streaming. Unfortunately, my channel's not there yet. I'm working on it. Eventually we'll get there, but right now it's just not feasible for me at this time with the computer that I have, with the equipment that I have, so to speak. That being said, let's go ahead and get into the severe threat. I don't know if any of you saw my post this morning, but I made a post earlier in the morning once I saw that this threat got upgraded to a moderate risk. There have been a few changes since then. Earlier in the day, the moderate risk wasn't stretched out as far to the east as it is now. So now we're starting to include more of central Mississippi here. We're starting to stretch a little bit further north as well. It was just we were just putting Memphis inside of there. Now we're stretching a little bit more towards the north and east here. So a slightly larger stretch of southwestern Tennessee will have to be on the lookout for severe weather and possibly even tornadic activity, or most likely even tornadic activity. And then we have our corners of southeastern Little Rock and northwestern Arkansas in play. But for the most part, a lot of the bigger cities, it hasn't changed. It's Bartlett, Tennessee, South Haven, Mississippi, Greenville, we got you in there too. Collierville, Tennessee, and Germantown. We're watching you guys as well. We can't forget Jackson, Tennessee, Jackson, Mississippi as well, Monroe, Louisiana, and Meridian. Another thing to note here is just because I'm mainly focusing on this moderate risk area, that these other areas are not, that these other areas that are in the enhanced, slight, and marginal risk can't get severe weather, including tornadoes. But the greatest threat, of course, is going to be in this area in the red. This is a level 4 out of 5, so this will always end up getting more attention. But areas like St. Louis, Louisville, Evansville, we can't disinclude you guys for the threat of severe weather either. Same with Birmingham, Mobile, and New Orleans, Alexandria, Shreveport, Little Rock. You guys are still very much in this as well. The dynamics don't seem the same, but danger is very much there for you guys too. And this moderate risk threat here is driven mainly by the tornado threat, and also we have a significant tornado threat that stretches up pretty far to the north as well. Jackson's included in this hatched risk area here. But basically anywhere in this enhanced risk region, all the way into the moderate risk, has a chance for a strong to violent tornado possibly, which is basically a storm that's able to produce a tornado of EF2 strength or higher. And then here's the legend with all the cities and the larger population centers that are at risk here. Then we look at the wind threat. Earlier today, there was a little area right here that had a hatched risk. The Storm Prediction Center has done away with that here, but there's still a 30% chance of winds being above 58 miles an hour within any thunderstorm that develops in this region here. So that being said, tornado is the main threat, but it's not the only threat. And then when we look at the hail threat, of course, that's going to be the least significant of the three. But it's not to say that it can't happen. And you know the saying, usually with a thunderstorm that produces hail, tornadoes not often far behind it. Don't be surprised to see hail ahead of these storms. So ahead of the tornado if there's going to be one. So just be on the lookout for everything on this one today. That's the best way to put it. Let's go ahead and look at the models real quick. There's no real reason to look at the parameters on all the models. Everything's pretty much concurrent and in agreement with one another at this point. I looked at all the convection. I went through the trouble of looking at all the convection models, which is partially why this video is going up so late. But simply put, atmosphere is loaded. I see very little reason as to why this threat doesn't come to fruition. We all hope it doesn't, but you can kind of just tell just from looking at these Cape values here. Once we get into about 16 to 17Z and into 18Z especially, we have a pretty stacked atmosphere. We're already sitting at about 2,000 joules per kilogram around Louisiana, and this is by about lunchtime, maybe a little bit after. We can just take a sounding at pretty much any point here. The hazard type is going to be tornado. In some areas, it'll be even a higher tornado threat here, especially as we go further to the east. Because every time that I've clicked on these soundings here, you'll notice this little area here. This is our storm relative helicity. This goes by meters squared per second in regards to storm relative felicities, or wind speeds that are at the low levels of the atmosphere. So when we start getting above 200, that gets pretty concerning. We're already above 230 here, and this isn't towards peak time. But look at this right here. Once we get to 21Z, we're already getting into the 2,500 joules per kilogram. And these are springtime numbers, by the way, folks. These are not numbers that you end up seeing in just during the fall. Like it's very rare. So that's how much of an anomaly this event is. Look at this right here. Have the PDS tornado potential right here. You have this area here. This is called the effective layer significant tornado parameter. We're already above a 4. I've seen this go up to as high as 12. Anything that's really above a 3 is a number that draws a lot of attention. And then, of course, look right here. We look at the storm relative felicity number. 259 meters squared per second. Pretty nasty stuff going on right here at this point. Capes, we start to lose some of the instability as we get later into the evening. I do think what happens here is there's going to be a confluence band that develops here. Fires off severe storms. We'll get some storms out ahead of it that end up producing tornadoes, possibly in northern Mississippi first, then towards southern Mississippi, and also covers the gaps here in central Mississippi. Once we get into the late night hours, though, we'll start to lose our instability. And I keep getting away from the mic like an idiot. But by I'd say about 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, I think the severe threat pretty much diminishes. That's why I'm not super worried about tomorrow, even though there is a marginal risk in effect. I don't think much is going to come from it. I think these storms are going to use up all the energy that they have now. And as a result, I think the tornado threat will be pretty significant tomorrow. Let's go ahead and look at the bulk shear real quick at the lowest levels of the atmosphere. This is also a pretty good indicator of what's going on as well. This is also just showing how much turning of the winds with height we have here, which is a key parameter in tornadic activity. So right now during 18Z here, nothing really impressive yet. But it's those little red and yellow areas here where we have to be really concerned here. Like when we click this right here, this is where we're getting into that 200 meters squared per second area again. And really just look at this setup itself. When we look at the skew T chart, look at the lapse rate that we have here, where this dew point just kind of dips off away from the temperature right here. It's pretty crazy stuff. Eventually, I'm going to do a tutorial on this on the other weather playlist. Also, I'm going to post a link right here in the top right where it talks about how you read Doppler radar and how you can pick up tornadic signatures on radar. I think this will be very important for anyone that's in these areas tomorrow. So, some useful information here for those who might need it will be in the top right corner. Oops. But look at the main event right here. This is towards about OZ, maybe about 6-7 o'clock. Even though this is marginal tornado threat, look at that. Look at the storm relative velocity right here. We're getting well over 350 meters squared per second. And while the instability isn't as impressive in this area, this is a very dangerous look here. Dang it, why does that keep happening? And then we'll click over here as well where there's a little bit more rich instability. Significant tornado parameter 4, and this is what really concerns me right here. We look right here, and I know it's kind of hard to read, but that says 531 meters squared per second. That's a very volatile, very intense atmosphere at the low levels of the atmosphere here. There's plenty of turning of the winds with height here is indicated by these wind barbs. Very good reason to believe that this tornado threat could have quite a few strong and violent tornadoes on here. So this threat's going to last into the overnight just a little bit right before this front comes through. And you can actually even see it on here. You can see this sharp drop off in the bulk shear. We're sitting in the 20 to 30 knot range here, and then you see this little sharp line, and then from there we start to drop off into the 7 knot range, and then we almost get next to nothing for a little bit until we get a little further behind the front. But that's what we have going on with the shear. Let's go ahead and look at the significant tornado parameter. If I can find it, jeez. But here's a little legend right here. Like I said, usually you don't see anything going above a 5 or a 6 often. So whenever you see any numbers that go beyond 4, like I said, it's definitely an eyebrow raiser. So move this along, and by like I said, 17Z, we're already starting to see some higher values. We're getting into some 4s, we're getting into some 5s already from the looks of it here. Look at this salicity here. We're looking at 324 meters squared and some of the higher STP values. And this only intensifies from the look of it the further we get towards 6-7 o'clock. Look at this region starting to go almost white hot, which is saying about 4 of 5 on the STP here. 4.9 is where I just clicked at, and here's a PDS tornado threat. 348 meters squared on the storm relative velocity. The mixed layer cape is sitting at 2,000 joules per kilogram. This most likely will be a discrete storm, which we'll look at on the composite reflectivity in just a second. And then a whole bunch of different areas start to go above that 4 and 5 range here in some spots. So central Mississippi is definitely going to be a hot spot, and then lo and behold, there you go. Getting near 400 meters squared. Jeez, it's almost overwhelming to watch these soundings. These soundings look like the type that you would see during spring, not in fall. And that's what's frightening about this, if anything, is just how much potential there is in the atmosphere right now. All you can do is really just hope that this situation doesn't come to fruition, and If so, then pray for these people. Pray that everyone makes it through all right. Pray that people take heed of the warnings here. So here we are, and already in the morning hours, you can almost see the convection starting. And then once we get to about 16, 17Z, you can already see these little kidney beans. In fact, there's one particular look of a hook echo right here at 17Z. Be able to see that on a composite reflectivity, which is 17 hours out, is incredible. But this also just shows how much turn there is in the atmosphere. And this is back towards Texas. Look how intense this atmosphere is. 285 meters squared per second over here. And this isn't in the most favorable of areas either. That just says a lot about just how crazy the atmosphere got. Here's our confluence band here, and this is a whole line of supercells that develops here. And we'll also have to even watch here towards southern Louisiana here, maybe even towards New Orleans here, just to the east of Baton Rouge. There could be a few storms here that end up spinning and producing some tornadoes here. The big supercells really don't start coming in until about 20Z, which would be about maybe 3, 4 o'clock. And things just really start to take off from there. It starts off in northern Mississippi, then central Mississippi gets its turn. And then towards the latter half of the evening, we'll have to watch more towards southern Mississippi, I'm thinking. Like I said, this could form into a dangerous line of supercells. Have to always watch out for these discrete cells, but we could see a little bit of a QLCS try to develop here too, which is a quasi-linear convective system. That's actually going to be my next video on the Weather Nerd 101 playlist for anyone that's curious about that too. But we start to lose our tornado potential after about maybe 8, 9 o'clock Central Time. And then we start to see our line of storms, and then our front will pass through, and our threat will start to diminish, thankfully. So, very rough day looks likely tomorrow. A lot of people will be on YouTube here live streaming. I wish I could be one of them, but between work and just limiting factors with my setup, I just don't see how I'll be able to do that, unfortunately. Like I said, I'll send you a link to other weather YouTubers and meteorologists that will be covering this storm, and just show them some love, because these guys are what made me want to do it, and eventually I'm hoping to get to their level. And I appreciate anyone that's supported the channel up to this point. Also, definitely share this video if you know anybody in these regions right here, as again, it looks like it's going to be a pretty volatile day. But other than that, if you liked anything that I did in this video, definitely, of course, drop me a like too. Just try to help me get into the algorithm a bit more. But this is it for the video here. I'll try to see if I can get something up in the morning just before I leave for work. But until then, this has been Tyler, Metalhead Weatherman. You guys stay safe, take care, and I'll see you soon.